Welcome to Power series on riding gear, and today we're talking about a really hot topic, the one that we get the most questions on, jackets. And jackets are a really hot topic also because if you get the wrong one, it really can be too hot to use, and that's the primary consideration I think for buying an Indian riding jacket. Now I'm coming at you from the base level, which means that I'm going to assume that you're going to have only one riding jacket. It's when your riding career is a few years older and you realize that there is value in having multiple riding jackets. That's when the discussion of what kinds of jackets you should own really comes in. So this is going to be from the perspective of if you had to buy just one jacket, what would it be? And that discussion starts at the basic level, which is the first job that your jacket has to do is protect you. And for that, you need abrasion resistance and impact resistance. When we've done the first of these videos, we talked about how abrasion resistance is when you're sliding along the road and the road's trying to eat away at your flesh and skin, and how does the jacket prevent you from doing that. And for that, you need a material that's really strong under tension. So as you stretch it, the material needs to hold together. And one of the worst materials for that is cotton, which is what your jeans are made of, which is why when we discuss riding pants, we'll talk about in detail, but that's why you don't really want to have cotton as an outer layer on a motorcycle. There's also a reason why you don't want cotton as an inner layer on a motorcycle, but that's a whole different discussion. What you want are strong materials like nylon, like Cordura, like some of the higher grade polyesters and stuff. And that's what most of these jackets are made of. Some of the new materials are complicated blends, and there's no real way for me to explain what they're made of. For example, the Dainese jacket that I use, it's made of something called Mugello fabric. The advantage of Mugello fabric is it has a little bit of stretch, so they can get away with not putting adjusters on your forearms and stuff to cinch the jacket to your body. And that's important because you don't want a jacket that flaps around or has a very loose fit, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. So where you start looking at impact resistance and abrasion resistance is material. It needs to be a strong material and it needs to have armor. Most jackets should have armor in the forearm area, that's here, on your shoulders and on the back. Now the back protector, some of the bigger brands don't offer standard back protectors. They allow you to have to purchase a back protector and add it to the kitty. So you have to pay attention to that when you're looking at the bigger brands. But I'm happy to say that most of the economy brands like Rhinox, Viaterra's line of custom jackets, whatever, they seem to have the full complement of armor. The optional item today, and is becoming more and more common, is either installed or pockets for chest armor, which is usually two pieces of armor that sit on top of your chest. I would say if you're buying a jacket today, try and aim for a jacket that has those pockets in place, even if the armor isn't there, because you can wait 6-7 months, collect a little bit of money, and just add very easily a CE level 1 or CE level 2 chest protector in there. They're usually quite thin. On my race jacket, I have the Alpenstars Nucleon armor. On my touring jacket, I have the Dainese Pro armor, both CE level 2, both extremely light. And they more or less disappear once you wear them, and they're not very bulky. Some of the cheaper brands of armor can actually make it quite bulky. I think there was one jacket that I used which had either a Sastec or a Nox, I forget, and that was really bulky, and I don't think that I want that much armor in front of my chest. I would rather have that kind of energy absorption and not have too much armor there. By energy absorption, I'm referring directly to the CE ratings. So the CE ratings for armor is level 1 and level 2. Both define how much energy is absorbed by the armor and then transferred. The rest of it is transferred to you. Level 1 is lower, level 2 is higher. You always want level 2, but if it's out of your budget, level 1 is better than nothing. You do need to pay a little bit of attention to the kind of armor in your jacket, because if the armor looks like this is a piece of rubber. This is a Nox branded armor, but this is actually quite old, so I'm sure that they've done more work on this since then. If it feels like this, strong and rubbery, there is a small chance that in time, sweat and use will cause it to disintegrate and fall apart, and you'll have to replace it. You also have to be super careful when you wash it. Like I wasn't, as armor is now torn like this, which is why it has been replaced by something else. Some of the other jackets use stuff that looks more like this, which is a plastic cap on top of a piece of foam. I find these really hardy because there's very little you can do to destroy these. And if you look, Dainese gives you the CE rating. This is a level 1. It gives you the CE rating right here. What you will usually want to upgrade to is something which is level 2, and the new materials are fantastic. So this is the back protector that goes into my jacket nowadays. The branding is Pro Armor, but this material absorbs so much energy that Dainese can afford to run this mesh and have a lot of air go through without impacting its ability to absorb energy. This is the kind of thing that you want to upgrade to. It's not always standard on economy jackets. That's the armor taken care of. What should your jacket be made of? For India, I recommend mesh wholeheartedly. And I recommend it because chances are you are going to be riding in hot conditions. And even if it's 25 degrees outside, if you're standing in the sun at a traffic light as you go to your office, it's going to get very, very warm. And it gets so warm that vented jackets don't really cut it. Breathable jackets are absolutely terrible. And 100% waterproof stuff, you really only need it like 10 days a year. The rest of the year, you're just suffering in the heat, and mesh works for that. So what I do most of the year on commuting is I use this. This is my Dainese Air Tourer SST jacket. It's just more or less entirely made of mesh. And for the rains, I will simply wear a Decathlon or something, a cheap rain suit on top. And I usually want a cheap one because they wear out. You can usually use them for a year or two before the water starts to leak. And at that point, I simply throw it away and replace it. So I don't really want a 8,000 rupee raincoat where a 300 rupee raincoat will do the job for that year. So to me, mesh is the material that you want to pick. Now the thing about jackets is what you're really looking for is a comfortable jacket. Now there are 3 or 4 areas where you want to give up the idea of comfort, and that would be over the outer parts of your limbs. This is what usually hits the road when you have a crash. Your hands will almost always hit the road, which is why gloves is a whole different discussion. So you do want as serious protection as you can get over the outside of your forearm, because this you will usually land on a road. It's almost 100% guaranteed thing to happen. Your elbows need protection. All of my motorcycle scars are on my elbows and knees. That's the area that you definitely want to protect. Sometimes when you're falling on the road on the side, the shoulder will hit, so you also want protection here. So if you don't have mesh on these parts of the jacket, that's still all right. If they have external protection, whether soft or hard, that's a bonus. Most of the sporty style jackets today will try and put a hard protector here. And the idea of a hard protector is it slides along the road without catching. So therefore it allows you to slide smoothly to a stop rather than tumble and roll, which is where you are at more danger of breaking bones and getting those kind of structural injuries. A lot of the vented jackets will also have a vent behind. You want to leave those vents open in 99.99% of the riding conditions because it's a vent. Any air that is able to enter from the front of the jacket needs a place to go. If you close those vents, it balloons out at the back and it sort of feels like you're wearing a fat suit for a movie. Yeah, you don't want that. On a mesh jacket, it's easier because there's mesh front and back and you don't really have control over the airflow. So what comes in the front goes out the back very, very easily. And that's why I keep saying, to me, India, mesh is the choice of jacket that you'd want. On an expensive jacket, you do get vents that close up and you want large vents. So when I looked at Rhinox's line, I think it was the Stealth Evo or the Advento, I forget. My first reaction was that that pocket didn't look large enough for the kind of heat that our country produces. So in Ladakh, where the daytime temperatures can be quite nice and pleasant, a vent that big might still work, and then when it gets cold, of course, you can close it. But for most of our conditions, like when you're going from, say, Pune to Bangalore, or when you're going to Hyderabad or something like that, the kind of heat that that road has, I think I'd want a lot more area of venting. Okay. The other idea of comfort that I wanted to give you is it needs to feel good and comfy easily and naturally on your body. If it feels uncomfortable, my fear always is that you'll say it's too uncomfortable to wear and you'll go to a shop or something and you won't wear the jacket. That's the day you'll have a crash, and then that's just a bad situation to be in. So to me, motorcycle jackets need to be natively comfortable, and in our country that almost always means mesh. When it comes to the comfort of a jacket, the things that are usually used to create this comfort are things that allow you to adjust the fit of the jacket to yourself. So usually you'll have some sort of adjustment at the waist which allows you to cinch the jacket closed. In the heat, this is important because if you're going to have a crash and the waist is really loose, the jacket will simply ride up as you slide along the road, expose your midriff, and now you've got the potential for injury. You do want some sort of mechanism which allows your jacket to connect to your pants. I prefer the 360-degree zipper, which means a zip that starts at the front near the pants button, goes all the way around your back and closes off at the other end. So it effectively is like a two-piece leather suit. It's connected to each other. So when you fall on the road, the jacket and pant can't really separate from each other. A lot of street gear will only give you a 8 or a 10-inch zip at the back. That's fine. Use the zip as diligently as you can, and that does imply that you want riding pants, and that's a video that we'll come up with shortly after this one. The other thing that you want to see is, do they have adjusters at the forearm and the bicep? It allows you to cinch the jacket closed, stop the flapping. Actually feels really good once you get used to it. Some of the newer jackets like this Dainese, this material has so much stretch built into it that Dainese didn't feel the need to put an adjuster here, and for me, it works really well. If it doesn't work for you, find a jacket that does. A jacket that has these kind of protections, the cinching built in so that you can fit the jacket. Now that brings us to the question of the zip and the way you close the collar off. So you get jackets with a little bit of a mandarin collar, which is a little bit raised. sort of like this one, whether you have Velcro here or buttons here, figure out what's comfortable for you. You do want the jacket closed off here. You don't want the wind to be slowly opening your jacket as you go along. It's happened to me. I was wearing a pair of leathers. I was on a ride somewhere and the zip on the leather wasn't properly closed off. And as I rode, the leather sort of opened and suddenly it became a huge balloon. It was very funny. For the guys behind me, it was very scary for me on the motorcycle. So you do want everything closed off nicely. If you're going to look for weather protection in a jacket, then your zipper should usually be under a set of flaps so that water can't get to the zip easily. Zippers are usually the weak point. That's where water usually enters the jacket. But to me, I would say don't worry too much about waterproof jackets. Their applicability in India is relatively limited. For your first jacket, get mesh and then buy a cheap raincoat and get it over with. The idea about riding jackets finally is about your safety, and safety comes from your visibility. In the purest sense of the word, a motorcycle going down the road will probably not be hit by a car if the car guys notice that you exist. On the other hand, if the car guy was distracted or just didn't notice you, because motorcycles are hard to spot, then the chances are that he will come into you without realizing that he's about to do you harm. So from that perspective, visibility is the final consideration for your jacket, and you do want enough reflective on the back of the jacket. If you don't have enough reflective, there are other solutions. So I bought these elastic bands of Amazon for 200 rupees. The brand doesn't matter, but the idea is that you can add a little bit of reflectivity if you want and make yourself more visible to traffic if you think your jacket lacks it. Now the final question is budgets and brands. Now really the amount of brands available in India today is a shockingly large set. I would say that your budget for a riding jacket when you start out at the very basic level should be about 8 to 10,000 rupees. A reasonable budget where you get a large choice of really nice jackets is about 15,000 rupees. Basic street riding jackets go up to 30,000 rupees. Some of the top brands like Dainese or Revit, which are both represented in India, their jackets are about that price range. They also have sales throughout the year or once a year. Look out for those sales. You can get some nice equipment at much lower prices. For example, if you look at the bucket list video in the series that's going out, episode 1, the jacket that Akshay is wearing, I actually found that jacket on Dainese's annual sale at their shop in Chennai, and it was I think a 24,000 rupee jacket which I got for I think 16 or 17 or something like that. So there are deals available, keep an eye out. The good brands at the base level for me, Viaterra makes a very nice line of custom jackets. They're fitted to you, you can choose the colors and a lot of features in there. Rhinox makes a whole series of really nice jackets. With some of the Rhinox jackets, just worry about the length a little bit. Street jackets can actually be right up to your belt, but that presumes that there is a way to connect your pant and your jacket together so that it can't ride up. If that's not the situation, then you do want a slightly longer length jacket. Touring jackets also prioritize space, which means place to put things in, which is why they will usually be longer and go almost down to the bottom of your crotch in terms of length. So figure out what kind of length you want. If you can connect the jacket, you can get away with short jackets. They feel really good to ride. All sporty jackets are usually short length jackets. They look really good too if you're a fit person. I think RST makes nice jackets. Bay City Speed Shop is their Indian representative. And of course, there are other brands like Climb and all of that, which are right at the top of the price chart, as it were. And I think Climb is Big Bad Bikes. Alpenstars is in India, of course. So there are a whole bunch of brands available. Do your research. You want good armor, you want good materials, you want it well made, and by well made I mean there is double, triple stitching in the areas where you're likely to see problems. So for example, if there is a seam that goes across your forearm, it needs to be really strong, and that means there will be a big overlap in the material, lot of stitching, so that when the road hits it, it's very difficult to wear out that part of the jacket. So those are the small considerations that go in, but remember, what you want is a jacket that's comfortable to wear so that your incentive to wear it, or the threshold that you have to cross to wear it, is as low as possible. That's the trick to wearing riding jackets. Thank you so much for watching. This is a series on riding gear. How do you pick one? What kind of jackets and what kind of budgets do you want to do is what we talked about this one. Stay tuned. We will be talking about other topics in the series, including base layers, pants, gloves, boots, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much for watching. This is Power Drift. We are under lockdown for COVID-19. We are at home, but we're thinking 100% about motorcycles. Stay apart, stay strong.